Hello and welcome to Ultiworld's coverage of the 2013 Stanford Invite. Today we have a third round pool play matchup here in day one of the Invite between University of Texas Tough and UNC Wilmington Seamen. UNC Wilmington is 1-0 on the day with a 13-11 victory over Arizona. And Texas losing in a universe point loss 13-14 today. I'm Jeremy Ziskind alongside Charlie Eisenhood. Charlie, tell me about the keys to this game and who are going to be some of the players to watch.
Well, I think what's going to be interesting to see is if UNC Wilmington's defense can continue to shine like they did at earlier tournaments last weekend at the Eastern's qualifier against Ohio in the finals. I think what we're going to need to watch for is whether Texas is going to be able to use their zone in these less windy conditions, and who's going to be able to really put the pressure on defensively.
Trey Masters picks it up, centers it to Andrew Colts. Tough coming out in a vertical stack. Second throw of the game, turnover to number 57, Mitchell Bennett. UNC Wilmington swinging it over to the middle of the field, looking back to number 14. Number 14 swings to the sideline to number 2. Back to the center of the field to number 14. With outside in and a beautiful layout grab right on the goal line. Looking to swing it off the line to number 14. It's like a pick called, center of the field. Number 14, Nick Jackson out of Arlington, Massachusetts with the disc.
Definitely runs their defensive line offense.
Another pick called on the field. And UNC Wilmington, on the first point of the game, calls a timeout on the goal line, looking to punch it in for a 1-0 score.
Yeah, and I think, obviously just a simple little turnover there for Texas, but UNC Wilmington showing what they can do with the disc after the turnover. A smart decision there, I think, to take timeout, get that early break. It can make a difference in these close games that we've seen all weekend so far at Stanford.
We should remind the folks viewing at home that there are 3 timeouts in this game, 1 per half and 1 floater. UNC Wilmington electing to take their first timeout of the game. Going to call a lineup.
And then the turnover there thrown to Mitchell Bennett, he was really outstanding at Florida warm-up. Really helped them and was sort of one of their standout players. And surprisingly, Will Driscoll is the name you most often hear about Texas, but he didn't really stand out as sort of dominating on the offense. It was actually Mitchell Bennett who was shining in games against Wisconsin and throughout the weekend. So we'll see what he can do in this game.
UNC Wilmington is undefeated on the season, having winning the Hellfish Bonanza earlier on in the season. Also winning the Eastern's qualifier, which they are hosting.
Yeah, and I think as the disc gets tapped in here, we'll see if UNC Wilmington can match up this weekend with certainly a much higher caliber crowd than who they've faced in their first 2 tournaments.
Looks like we have number 14, Nick Jackson, picking up the disc with Will Driscoll on the mark. Looking up line. Not getting it. Hammer goes up to number 80 and it falls harmlessly to the ground. Turnover. Texas with the disc going back on offense. Looks off Will Driscoll, looks for the break.
Under X!
Number 57, Mitchell Bennett with the disc. Looking to dump the disc, can't, gets it over to number 3, Trey Masters. Trey Masters on the opposite side of the field. Simple up the field to Peter Clark. Peter Clark looking for his dump, gets it back to Trey Masters. Trey Masters over to Andy Klotz. Tight throw up to Peter Clark. Peter Clark looking to get it to Will Driscoll. Miscommunication back to UNC Wilmington. Puck immediately goes up to number 13. Runs and Trey knocked to the ground, calling a foul on the play.
Well, that sure didn't look like a foul.
It's like a contested foul going back to the thrower. UNC Wilmington retains possession.
He's calling a strip there, but looked like a pretty clean D.
Both teams with a few jitters here in the early going, running vertical stack.
You notice early, Will Driscoll hasn't had much impact on the offense. They looked at him there at the turnover, but he hasn't touched the disc yet.
Will Driscoll, of course, playing with the Next Gen Tour in 2012, the College All-Stars, playing against the club teams across the country. Will Driscoll having a great tour. Really boosted his profile amongst the ultimate community, and also won a championship in 2012 last year with Austin's Double Wide.
That's right.
Austin Double Wide winning that championship. Throw goes up, goes harmlessly to the ground. Austin's Double Wide winning that championship, breaking up a streak, a long streak of Northwest victories in that club tournament, except for Jay and Lightning in 2009. The Northwest team had won the championship every year from 2002 up until last year. Double Wide finally breaking through for the South. Texas tapping it in on the goal line. Up to Will Driscoll. Will Driscoll throws it deep. Sensational throw. And clap catch for number 34, Andrew Klotz with the score. Texas up 1-0.
I think we should get used to that now. Will Driscoll finding Mitchell Bennett deep. We're going to see a lot of Mitchell Bennett going to the end zone. We got the easy dish there to Klotz for the goal. I think that's overall a pretty good D point for the Seamen. You know, they turned it over a couple times, but if they can keep up that, start turning those turnovers into points, they're going to be in good shape in this game.
Alto, California. Sun is shining. It's about 72 degrees outside. Light winds, but the wind has been picking up so far as the day has gone on. Do you think we'll see some zone here in this game, Joe?
Well, I would not be surprised to see Texas come out right now with the zone. They had a lot of success with it at warm-up with their tall, athletic line. They use a four-man cup to great effect. And it hasn't been windy this morning, but it's definitely picking up a little bit now. And they've got a pretty tall line in there. I wouldn't be surprised to see them come out right now and see if UNCW can get through their tall four-man cup.
Coach Calvin Lynn calling lines. He's been the coach of Tough for 16 years. Did not play on Texas. Assistant coach Stephen Presley graduated in 2009. He's now the co-coach with Calvin Lynn. He's been coaching ever since he graduated. Pull goes up. UNC Wilmington not finding any success underneath. Looking for his dump. Swings it over to number 8, James Hill. James Hill back to the center. Looking a little bit stagnant downfield for UNC Wilmington. Throws it up to Troy Conley. Troy Conley boosts it deep. And the receiver is wide open. Calling it in on the goal line. Looking to punch it in here on the goal line. Can't find his dump. Throws up line and a beautiful layout D on Texas to save an almost sure goal. Looks like an injury is called. Fantastic layout grab from number 8, Danny Broberg.
And it's unclear if he even really made much contact with the disc there, but it was just enough getting in the way of the flight path of the disc for the offensive player that he dropped it.
Danny Broberg shaking it off. Looks like he may have had a hip pointer or some sort of back injury. Looks like he's going to be okay, though. But that is a turnover. Great D, even if he didn't get a piece of it, still made the receiver think about it. Will Driscoll's going to pick it up, bring it to the line for Texas. Texas set up in a diagonal stack. Having some trouble getting it off. Kick called.
And that's an exciting matchup right there. Tommy Lamar taking Will Driscoll.
And we mentioned Will Driscoll being on Next Gen. Tommy Lamar also his teammate on that Next Gen tour last year. Ooh, and a miscommunication on the dump. Will Driscoll throws it away in his own end zone. Not what you want, especially in this kind of wind. If you're going to turn it over, you want it to be deep.
Wilmington had a lot of success with their end zone sets in the finals against Ohio, sort of the best team they've played this season. We'll see if they can do the same here.
Texas double teaming the receiver, but he manages to get open, stays in bounds for the clap catch. Wilmington scores 1-1. It's
a bit of an upwind, downwind game. I suspect we'll see a lot of scores in this end zone.
The wind picking up just a little bit, just enough to make those throws not quite as clear and as robust as you'd like. But so far we haven't really seen any zone.
Yeah, I think later in the game we probably will, especially if one team starts to have success on offense. There's been a lot of turnovers early here. You know, I think one thing that's interesting about the Stanford Invite is that most teams have to take long byes between their games because of the four-field situation here at the Sandhill Fields on the Stanford campus. You know, it's hard to come into a game when you just sat for 2 hours and sort of get back up to play these top teams.
That's right. Teams in this pool having to take 2 different byes, having a round at 8 a.m., 11:20 a.m., and then again at about 2:30, having to warm up and cool down twice on the day. Not the most ideal setup for these teams.
Let's see if Wilmington's D-line can continue to put pressure on Texas offense here and punch one in.
Pull goes up from UNC Wilmington, moving right to left. Center standard Klotz. Klotz looking for Driscoll, can't get it to him. Over to Mitchell Bennett. Driscoll looking deep, covered well by his defender. Back to the middle to number 33. Trey LeMasters with the disc on the sideline. Will Driscoll's just wide open right now. Finally they get it to him in the middle of the field. Nick Jackson on the mark right now against Will Driscoll, looking for his dump. It's over number 33. Smooth throw up the middle to Trey LeMasters. Just kind of working it up the force side here, jamming it up the sideline. Working in tight spaces. Getting it to number 9, Peter Clark. Peter Clark on the sideline. Gets it back to Will Driscoll. Will Driscoll on the sidelines, about 15 yards outside the end zone.
Good dump D.
Excellent dump D. Looks like a bit of a foul called downfield. Defender getting in the way of the cut to the cone.
It's Charlie Leon there on the dump D, one of the younger players on UNC Wilmington, but he made a real impact at the Easterns qualifier and seems to be getting some playing time here.
Yes, Charlie.
And one thing that we've noticed from the most successful teams at college nationals is dump D is really incredibly important, preventing those easy resets, especially to their superstar players. Another call on the field from number 57, Mitchell Bennett. Senior on this Texas squad. Break mark throw from Will Driscoll. Will Driscoll and the easy score to number 9, Peter Clark. Texas up 2-1. Texas is a perennial nationals contender. They finished 10th last year. Really a team that seems to make it year in and year out with the kind of consistency that Calvin Lynn, their coach, gives them. Charlie, what does it mean to have a coach at the college level? You know, the Hodags for a number of years did not have a coach, and now they do. Is this becoming a trend now where every team has a coach?
It's one of the things that I think is one of the biggest stories of this entire season is that teams are realizing that a coach can be a huge competitive advantage. I mean, the ability for the coach to sort of make strategy changes and call lines and have that outside perspective that you often need to win close games is huge, and we're seeing more and more that teams with good coaches are finding great success. You look at a team like Central Florida, who's here at Stanford this weekend, and their coach Andrew Roca has won Coach of the Year 2 years running, and he's taken that team from, you know, sort of a second-tier team in the Southeast into the best team in the Southeast and potentially a semifinalist at Nationals this year.
Let's go, Blackwood!
Hand goes up, and here comes the pull from Texas. Central Florida. So UNC Wilmington centering it to number 20. Number 20 up to number 12. Back to number 20, the middle of the field. Running a vertical stack. Open cut to number 33. Moving up the line, can't quite get it to his handler. Texas with the immediate huck. Looking downwind for the receiver, and he can't quite get it to him. Just the wind just pulls it down. This just kind of dies right there on the end zone.
He was wide open. They had a miscommunication on defense, and he had an easy open huck there.
And he probably would have made it. A huge huck goes up, and a beautiful throw, end zone to end zone. Tommy Lamar right on the goal line. All he has to do is get it to his receiver. Oh, and he can't quite get it there.
We're seeing a lot of impatience from both teams early in this game. He's called a foul, I believe.
Yeah, Tommy Lamar with that next-gen experience. Hope he'd be able to punch it into that open receiver there in the corner. Beautiful cut, end zone to end zone. Disc is tapped in. Tommy Lamar looking for his receiver and gets it to him in the corner. For the 2-2 score, Wilmington gets it back.
Sort of a slow start for both teams so far. Defense is not looking too sharp. I would not be surprised to see some changes on the Texas coming out on the zone potentially.
You know, and interestingly enough, these are teams that come from areas of the country where they're going to be practicing outdoors pretty much all season long. But yet we've seen a lot of these miscues in the early going, almost as if they haven't been outside yet. Whereas you look at a team like Wisconsin, who spends all winter indoors, don't really get a chance to test their throws, but they're looking a lot smoother here in the early goings of this tournament. You know, to what extent is the wind going to play a factor here in this game?
Well, I think right now it's probably not windy enough to be a huge factor. I think the throwaways we've seen have been more just, you know, sort of rusty execution errors than wind affected. But, you know, I think it is windy enough for zone to work and, you know, to make the hammer throw a little more difficult than it might otherwise be. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that come into play.
Trail Masters centering the disc. Looking at a vertical stack. Foul called on the mark. Foul called on number 2, Shane Dieters. Disc gets tapped in. Will Driscoll with the cut. Gets the disc up the fore side. Another miscommunication on the downfield, and number 9, Peter Clark can't quite get there. UNC Wilmington looking for the downwind break here. Huge outside in flick to the corner of the field. And the wonderful forehand to the end zone. Wide open receiver, and he just drops it right in the end zone. He's going to have to get up and play defense here.
Here comes Texas on the fast break.
And another miscommunication, another drop.
A lot of drops here early.
Hammer goes up, floating. Will Driscoll manages to get in the middle of it, gets a hand on it, and knocks it to the ground. Texas fortunate to get that one back. 2 open receivers for UNC Wilmington in the corner.
Well, when you're 6'5", it makes making a play like that a lot easier.
Multiple turnover point. Both teams looking a little bit tired here in the early going. Peter Clark getting the disc. Looking for his handler up line. Gets it in power position, can't get the throw off. Swinging it back to the center of the field. Continuation to number 34. Gets it back to Andrew Klotz. Andrew Klotz with the inside-out huck to the center of the field and a wide-open Mitchell Bennett for the beautiful throw. 3-2 Texas.
You know, and one of the things we wrote about in the preview this week is fatigue going to be a factor for UNC Wilmington? They're the only team at this tournament that played a tournament last weekend, and not only that, they had a tournament the weekend before that, so this is their 3rd in a row. And, you know, tournaments, you have to get used to playing them, and it's part of the reason that teams play 3 or 4 during the season to get ready for the length of the series and the sort of the long nationals 4-day experience. But at a tournament like this, when maybe they're kind of be hunting for a bid after they got knocked out in the quarterfinals of regionals last year, you wonder tomorrow or even later today, is fatigue going to play a role and maybe slow them down a little bit?
It's possibly a little bit of jet lag. Teams having to make quite the flight. Wilmington with a 6-hour flight over here to the West Coast. Plus, with all the responsibilities of being a college student, term papers, finals. This is not like your typical professional sports team where all you have to focus on is the game itself. A lot of different things going through these players' minds today. Number 19 with the pull. Loaded down to number 10. Sideline of the field. Working it up the field with the handlers. Dumps it to the center of the field. Swings it over to number 10. Nice grab there. Handlers content to work it amongst themselves down the field, swinging it back and forth, eating up yardage. Brings it back to number 20.
And they've kept the stack way back and let the handlers really work it. Something I saw them doing 2 weeks ago as well. I thought maybe they were just warming up their handlers, but it seems to be a part of their offensive set.
Strip called. Looks like the throw may have slipped out of the handler's hand just a little bit there. No contest. Coming back in on 0. Wilmington not finding a lot of space for their cutters. Break mark to the other side of the field. Beautiful throw and a clap catch. It looks like he can't quite pick it up.
It's tough like that when you've got 2 hands on it to take the hit of the ground after you caught the disc. It often comes out.
Beautiful break mark throw, and again, the Texas receiver can't quite haul it in, bobbling it. Back to UNC Wilmington.
That's about the 10th drop we've seen in this game.
Both teams looking a little sloppy here in the early going, but a beautiful high release backhand. UNC Wilmington with the score, 3-3, knotting it up.
That's a pretty throw. I think it's hard to appreciate sometimes a throw like that where you're releasing up high over the defender's shoulder, going sort of across the stack to the end zone.
The mark was playing a step off there. It almost looked like a regular flat backhand. He didn't have to do too much work for that. Nevertheless, a great high release backhand. Timeout called here by Texas, 3-3. Team's looking a little jittery here in the early going, hoping to calm down as the game moves on. Coach Calvin Lynn looks pretty unhappy here in the huddle, talking about the drops, wanting his receivers to attack the disc every time they go for it and make sure they get a sure clap catch. And we're back off the timeout. Teams knotted up at 3. UNC Wilmington having a lot of success in the early 90s with their program. Taking the national championship down in 1993 and making it to the finals in 1990 and 1991. However, they have not made the semis since 1995.
Yeah, they've struggled of late. Losing to Georgetown in the quarterfinals last year was really a disappointment. I think they've really come into this season with a new focus. They were a little bit too worried about getting bids last year and not enough on developing the team. And their coach, Greg Vassar, talked a lot about how they're trying to take it one game at a time this season.
Texas taps the disc in. Immediate dump. Back and forth between their handlers. Legs get tangled up there. Foul called. The 3 on Texas looking a little bit gimpy. Traylor Masters getting his feet tangled on the up the line cut.
Let's go, Black!
Injury called. Traylor Masters coming off the field for number 12, Colby Jansen.
We should just update the roster that we had for UNC Wilmington was a little bit outdated. Number 14, Mark Evans standing here at the bottom of the screen. Not Nick Jackson.
Colby Jansen with the disc. Breaks over to Mitchell Bennett. Mitchell Bennett with a big fake. Gets it back to Andrew Klutz. Andrew Klutz gets it over to Will Driscoll on the sideline. Driscoll with a big forehand fake. Throws a forehand back across the field. With an incisive forehand up the middle of the field to Will Driscoll, and that is a pretty throw. Texas up 4-3.
Yeah, Will Driscoll making himself a little more noticed than he was at warm-up. Trying to be a little bit more involved in the offense. Some nice throws early and a nice cut there for the easy score.
Will Driscoll almost looking casual on the field. Certainly not to say a lazy player or anything like that, but actually some of the best players that I've seen while playing Ultimate, they almost have this grace about them where it looks like they're really not making any effort, but maybe it's just their stride length is so big, or maybe they just know how to economize every movement. And Will Driscoll seems to be one of those players.
It's interesting to watch him as sort of the star of this team and one of the core members of this team. He really sort of imbues the team with that essence, I think, and you see a very different sort of vibe from Texas than you do, say, another top team like Wisconsin or Pitt, who tend to drive more on their fire and intensity rather than the smooth, like, effortless calm that you see from a player like Driscoll. And I think it's really interesting to see the contrast in styles. UNC Wilmington is certainly a team that prides itself on defense, but it was surprising at warm-up, Texas never really looked like they were dominating, but they were, and they continued to get wins. I think that's partly because of that effort factor that we see.
Disc is centered. Number 20 in the first zone of the game we're seeing. It looks like a standard three-man cup. Trapping on the sideline. Hammers over the center of the field. Wind picking up a little bit. Blade over the top to number 3 in the center of the field. Up to number 12. A few yards outside of the end zone. Breaks to number 3. For UNC Wilmington, 4-4. That was the first zone we've seen today. It wasn't too effective.
Didn't work. You know, that over the top is still available. I think especially, I'm surprised they threw the zone with UNCW going downwind. It really makes that throw a lot easier. And of course, that's what's going to kill any zone. I wouldn't be surprised to see them come with a 4-man next time, see if they can put a little bit more pressure on that high release.
And Texas has a fairly tall team. A team like Double Wide, the club team out of Austin, runs a gigantic 4-man cup where really the goal is to intimidate, block your sight lanes, and try to prevent those over-the-top throws. It looked like Wilmington didn't really have too much of an issue getting it over the top.
No, not with the standard 3-man. They're trying to trap on the sideline there. Couldn't keep it on the sideline. Then they found an easy hole in the middle of the zone.
Hey, let's go, Black! Right here, defense! Let's go, Zayden!
You see the Wilmington sideline trying to get their players pumped up. Energy level a little bit low here in the early going. Hopefully we'll see it picked up a little here at the end of the first half.
Yeah, neither defense has been very effective. We haven't seen a break yet.
Disc floats harmlessly out of bounds. Going to come in at the brick mark.
The out-of-bounds pull kills the classic Wilmington chant on the sideline.
Corey, I'm talking to you. Corey, I'm in here.
Indeed. Andrew Klutz bringing it to the center of the field. You see Texas's vertical stack again. Wilmington defenders poaching in the center. Immediate break over to number 3, Trey LeMasters. Trey LeMasters back to Andrew Klutz. Klutz back to LeMasters, just kind of playing a 2-man game until something opens up downfield. Mitchell Bennett gets it with a huge layout bid from the UNC defender.
It's all around, Corey, all around.
Getting gummed up a bit on the sideline. Gets a bailout, and a hut goes up to number 9, Peter Clark. Is he going to get it? Yes, a beautiful hanging throw. Texas 5, Wilmington 4.
That's just smooth offense. Texas is starting to pick it up a little bit. Maybe that timeout helped them.
We've seen some fantastic throws thus far downwind from the Texas handlers. Some beautiful I.O. breaks and some beautiful flat forehands.
Surprisingly, the Wilmington defenders have been sort of left in the dust a few times here. I mean, there was nobody even close on that. Xavier maxed out in the coverage, but and he's certainly a great defender, but nowhere close there. I think the timing and the vertical stack, UNC Wilmington still needs to find a way to adjust to a little bit.
And the vertical stack coming back into style a little bit. And you saw in the mid-2000s when club teams like Furious George and Sockeye were winning championships, they almost exclusively ran horizontal stacks, and you started to see that trickling down into the college ranks. What I'm noticing is this year and in recent years, you're seeing the vertical stack making a comeback, the ISO stack also making a comeback, as teams like Double Wide and Revolver in the club scene are doing those kinds of offenses.
Yeah, and I think the ISO stack has been a particularly successful one in the last couple of years. Certainly we saw it a lot of the club scene. And in college, I think it could be very successful. I haven't seen it run too much so far this season, but with a lot of these teams relying on 2 to 3 really top guys, putting those guys in isolation, just letting them do work and get open, could be an effective way to jumpstart an offense.
Pull goes up from Texas, leading 5-4 in this one. Texas number 6 poaching in the lane a little bit. Wilmington with a hammer over the top to number 52. 52 on the sideline looking for his dump. Throws it up line, wide open to number 8. Chris Edom. Chris Edom swinging it to the center of the field. Number 10, Luke Hancock. Luke Hancock over to Tommy Lamar. Tommy Lamar breaks it back into the center of the field. Looks off a wide open receiver. Throwing it back to the center of the field. Tommy Lamar jogging back for the dump, can't quite get open. Gets the disc about 5 yards back. Receivers looking a little tired, looking a little stagnant. Little flip to the sideline. Jamming it up the 4th side here. Swings it back. It looks like a defender might have gotten a hand on that when he's streaking.
There he goes. Oh, they didn't put it.
Looking to play a little bit conservatively here. Texas looking for a big break here. Going upwind, this would be a very big score before halftime.
Everyone wants to fight with the tire.
Hunter's not moving at all. Good call downfield.
Disc is coming in on 6 here. UNC Wilmington in a good position to get the disc back.
The sideline's absolutely pleading with the cutters to move and make a cut. Calling a timeout for Texas here, looking to punch it in for the 6-4 break.
Interesting time to take a timeout coming in on stall 7. Giving the defense a chance to rest is going to put them in a position to maybe get a block here. But there wasn't much happening. I think maybe Texas needed the timeout even more than the defenders. We'll be right back after this timeout.
We're back here. Texas about to tap it in. Looking to punch it in upwind. It's 5-4 currently. Diagonal stack, angling towards the opposite corner. Gets an immediate throw up to number 19. Number 19 up to 20 for the score. Texas punches in the break, 6-4.
Unclear what UNC Wilmington was doing after that timeout. Their defensive set didn't seem like the one that was going to work. They had a wide open guy get the dump and then a wide open strike cut.
Yeah, it looked like the dump defender was poaching a little bit, but not very effectively. Just working it right up the sideline for the easy score. Texas looking to break into halftime here. Games to 13, halftime at 7. Games are capped at 15 today. The games in the elimination round tomorrow will be played to 15 with a cap at 17.
This is going to be a big test for the UNC Wilmington offense. This is an important point.
And it's going to be very tough for Wilmington to go upwind here, but they're going to need to punch in this break. They don't want to go into half down 3 points. But still, the energy level on the sidelines, Charlie, is looking a bit lower than some of the games we've seen earlier in the day.
Strangely low, I agree with that. There's not a whole lot of excitement from either team. I mean, this is something that I think we've grown to expect from Texas. They just don't have that fiery sideline. That's not their style. That's not their coach's style. But Wilmington, usually much more high energy than this. They're looking a little frustrated right now.
Historically, Wilmington known to be a very fiery team. Teams from North Carolina getting into it with other squads. But so far, a very clean, well-spirited game thus far. Pull rolls towards the back of the end zone, is touched, and there it looks like Wilmington's going to have to fight all the way out of the back of their end zone here. It's going to be very tough.
Yeah, they got to go to a full 90 yards here.
And they're almost right at the very back of the end zone, almost going out of bounds. Huge hug goes up. Tommy Lamar angling right, brings it in with the claw catch. Swings it back to the center of the field, floating over the receiver's head. He brings it in. Defenders catching up. Back to the vertical stack in the center. Number 10, the outside in backhand to the back of the end zone, and receiver can't quite reel it in.
That's a perfect throw, and honestly, the receiver has to make the catch when it's on his hand like that. That's a frustrating drop for a handler.
A bit of a discouraging drop, working it out of the back of your end zone. Or we'd have a drop in the back of the other end zone. On the other hand, Texas has to work at the full length of the field to try to score back downwind. We'll see if they can do it with Will Driscoll picking up here on the goal line.
They've been running Will a lot today. He's been playing on both sides of the disc. One of the few players to do that here on this Texas team.
Also a bit surprising, Will Driscoll playing handler, picking up the disc after every turn. The hammer, not going to get it done. Floats in the air, and the Wilmington defender knocks it to the ground. Wilmington about 15 yards outside of the end zone. Receiver on the team breaks it to the center of the field. Wilmington with the score, 6-5, getting it back upwind.
That's a big score for Wilmington. You feel like if they give that up, the way they've been trading points in this game, they might not have had a chance to get back in it. But now, if they're going downwind, the defense is going to have a chance to put some pressure on. I wouldn't be surprised to see some zone, and they may have a chance to just tie this one back up.
We've only seen zone about 1 point today, and largely ineffective, scoring in about 10 seconds or so. So we'll see. We'll see if they try it again.
They did get Driscoll to turn the disc over there with the hammer over the top of the zone.
Not a very patient throw. Did not look to his dump. Immediately looked over the top. Wind is picked up just enough to where that throw is going to be dicey.
9-9-1-5. Let's go, Black. Let's get the break back.
So it's 6-5 Texas here in round 3 of the Stanford Invite. The winner of this pool will get a bye into quarterfinals tomorrow. The second and third place teams in this pool will end up playing in a pre-quarters matchup tomorrow to face the team that gets the bye.
No defense for UNC Wilmington.
Bit of a miscommunication there. Mitchell Bennett getting the disc wide open. Back to Andrew Klotz. Klotz looking for his dump. Gets it to Trent Masters, and he can't reel it in. Big break for Wilmington. Only about 20 yards outside of the end zone now, looking to tie it up. It's exactly what Wilmington needed.
Mark Evans has really been a force on Wilmington this season. He's really been probably their best defender. his value comes even more after the turnover because he can pick it up and put the disc anywhere.
So travel called. Comes back in, breaks it to the center of the field, looking for the break, isn't there. Gets it back on the sideline. Gets it back to the other side of the field, swinging it across. Receiver's not open downfield. Beautiful break with a layout D on the goal line. A throw into a very tight space, doesn't get there. And Trey LeMasters is going to pick up the disc. And again, Mitchell Bennett wide open, just hammers it right over the top to him with a huge lefty backhand, and the receiver can't quite get there. And there's some discussion on the field. Is this disc going to come? Looks like this disc is going to come back to Mitchell Bennett, possibly a pick call.
It's unclear what the call is here. Certainly there was no foul on the throw.
It was a wide open throw for Mitchell Bennett. Mitchell Bennett, for some reason, he's getting the disc, and nobody seems to want to guard him, even though he's a pretty good player.
I mean, he's had a couple of nice scores already this game, and is certainly one of their top O-line players.
And a fantastic bandana as well. Number 3, Trey LeMasters.
Stay good, under, right, Corey, stay right. Stay right, Corey, stay right. Up.
Throws a flat break up to Peter Clark. Peter Clark over to Will Driscoll. Driscoll continues over to Andrew Klotz.
Go game.
Texas moving it methodically down the field here.
More game.
Foul on the throw.
Let's go, Black.
Straddling the pivot foot a little bit.
Both teams downfield still looking a little bit stagnant. Not a whole lot of cutter movement.
Breaks off Mitchell Bennett. Gets it to Trey LeMasters. Trey LeMasters gets it back to Mitchell Bennett. Bennett breaks it back to the center of the field to Mitchell Payne. Payne back to Will Driscoll, looking for the score. 5 yards outside the end zone.
Hands high!
LeMasters with the disc. Back to Will Driscoll.
Go inside!
Will Driscoll, with the inside-out break to, again, a wide open Mitchell Bennett, but he can't quite reel it in.
And another drop for Texas. They're going to be lucky to get out of this half with a lead, considering how many turnovers they've had.
And if Wilmington can score here, they're going to bring it into half.
Court, go!
Huck goes up to number 36. And just lands. Bounces right off of his hand into the end zone, knocks it into the end zone.
You can see Mark Evans' value there. That's a beautiful throw. I mean, just a little bit beyond his receiver at that time, but really, you got to make that catch at this level. If you want to be a high-level college team, you have to be able to lay out for that disc floating in front of you and catch it every time.
And Texas calls their second timeout of the half. Up 6-5, looking to punch it in, go up by 2 at halftime. And I know that.
Coming back after the timeout here, Texas with the disc.
Texas with the disc, looking to break it into halftime for the 7-5 lead. Set up in a vertical stack with Will Driscoll at the back. Mitchell Bennett again with a beautiful cut. He's getting 5 to 10 yards of separation with every cut. Foul on the Huck. Looking for Will Driscoll. Defender eats it up, and it's predictably going back to Mitchell Bennett.
We've got a frustrated UNCW defense right now. That would have probably been a D even without the foul. That's always tough as a downfield defender to have to send it back after you make a nice play.
Good job of Mitchell Bennett fighting through the contact, getting the throw off anyway. Essentially a free play at that point.
Yes, Zach, great. Don't let him out.
Giselle dumping it off to Trey LeMasters. LeMasters back to Driscoll. Handlers just moving it amongst themselves, moving backwards at this point. Ooh, working it into a very tight space. Wilmington's dump defense clamping down. Does not want to get broken into halftime.
Let's go, X!
Stack kind of out of sorts for Texas right now. Still not a whole lot of movement downfield.
Will Driscoll gets the disc over to Peter Clark. Horizontal bid straight into the back of Andrew Klotz. That is a very dangerous play. Caused some serious injury. Wasn't really anywhere near the disc. If we had observers in that game, that might be a TMF.
Yeah, I think you're right. Charlie Leon trying to get aggressive, trying to spark something in his D line here, but not a good bid.
Charlie, real mark! Lit! Come on, Charlie!
The disc over to Traylon Masters, swings it over to Mitchell Bennett.
Go big, go big!
To Bennett, back to the Masters. Looks off Bennett. Gets it back to him. Handlers moving it amongst themselves, breaking it very nicely. Doesn't get the break. Gets it over to Traylon Masters. Masters back to Bennett. Bennett back to the Masters. A little bit stagnant downfield thus far for Tough. Receivers look tired.
They have shown a lot of patience in this game.
Texas really unwilling to make the risky throw, just content to make it as easy as possible.
Go around!
Masters getting the disc every other, very solid handler. Back to Will Driscoll.
Let's go! Yes!
And the wind gets a hold of that one, bounces off of Mitchell Bennett's chest.
And he's looking a little bit gassed.
Looks like that might have hurt him a little bit. Maybe it hit him in the collarbone or in the throat or something.
Big test out.
And a huge forehand flick into the wind, curling back to the end zone, and the receiver can't quite get it. Gorgeous throw, but it sails just long.
That sure is a pretty throw. Boy, again, just out of reach of the UNC cutter. That's just so frustrating when it's not quite linking up like that. You make that play right there, that's a momentum shifting play. So now they got to go back and play more D. Everybody's tired. This is crunch time for them.
And Wilmington was about ready to explode. They were ready to just charge the field. And a great throw goes up, but it just hangs a bit too long, and Wilmington gets in there for the D. Looked like he was going to call a foul, but number 9, Peter Clark, rescinds his call.
Well, maybe he knew this game was being filmed, and he knew that was nowhere near being a foul.
Can't get away with that one anymore. Oh, gorgeous bid from Traylon Masters. Can't quite get there.
Nice.
Wilmington working it up the sideline. Pick called. Calls the handlers going up line. Disc is going to come back to the thrower.
This game is feeling like it could get to the point where it gets a little bit chippy. I think him not making that foul call was important, but team's just getting a little tired, a little irritated with themselves and the other team.
Forehand goes up. Will Driscoll doesn't get a hand on it, but he gets enough in the way that it bounces off the receiver's hands. Tough gets the disc back, trying to get into halftime, trying to will their team into halftime. Mitchell Bennett in the center of the field. Fast count called on the defender. Stall count is going to drop.
Hey, let's go, D! Here we go, Black! Come on, Black! Let's go, D! Relax back, boy. Let's go,
Mitchell Bennett dumps it over to Andrew Klotz.
Contact!
Oof. And Mitchell Bennett runs right into the defender. The defender claims he's standing his ground. Mitchell Bennett runs right into him. Instead of taking the charge, he just knocks Mitchell Bennett
It's getting a little chippy. I mean, we just talked about it, and here they're now yelling at each other, both claiming that they had right to the space.
At this point,
they're still jawing down on the field.
Great catch over his defender. These players are really going at each other right now. Peter Clark with the disc. Back to Klotz. Klotz perfect the disc, but calls a foul. Coming back to the thrower. Telling you, this matchup is getting chippy out here.
Yeah, but I think it's nice. It's adding a little bit of energy to the game that didn't exist.
Something needed to wake these two teams up. Looks like we have. Driscoll over to Bennett. Bennett back to Klotz. Breaks into the center to Trayla Masters. Masters over to Driscoll.
They're on the doorstep now.
About 10 yards outside of the end zone, looking to break for half. And Bennett gets it, spikes the disc for the score. Texas takes it into half, 7-5.
Yeah, and he finally gets that one. He's caught that set. Whoa! And Will Driscoll picks the disc up and re-spikes it. Wow, this is an exciting moment and something you don't see from Will Driscoll very often. There's some fire in the game now. I think we're in for a very good second half.
And Driscoll maybe having a direct feed up here into the booth saying he's playing a little lackadaisical or at least a little casual. Picks up the disc and spikes the disc a second time, ready to fire his team up. This is going to be a great second half here, Charlie.
I think you're right, and finally they get that score that they had it there twice already with drops, and they punch it in. They got the 7-5 lead. I don't think that lead is safe, and I think we're in for a very good second half.
So tell us about the strategies we've seen in the first half. Both teams running vertical stack. There's only been 1 point where there hasn't been man-to-man defense. Are we going to see some variety in the second half, do you think?
Oh, I think we will. I think certainly, at least in the UNC Wilmington sideline, they're going to be thinking about what can we do to slow this team down a little bit, even more so than they are. I mean, you look at this, they're making 50 throws before they scored there after the turnover. Now, it doesn't seem to be enough, though, to just put pressure D on. Maybe they're going to try to run a zone to get them to force some more risky throws. That has worked for them earlier. They got Will Driscoll to throw that hammer across. But, clearly the man D, although it's putting a lot of pressure on their downfield cutters, Texas has been content to just swing the disc and wait for their time until they can get the break off and move down the field. And they don't seem to be having any trouble completing the throws on that last drive there before they scored. So I expect we'll see some changes. From the Texas team, it's hard to say. They've got a break. They can probably be okay just to trade the rest of the way.
And they've been making their dump throws. The dump handler a lot of times isn't even moving, just kind of makes eye contact with the thrower, and the thrower is just putting up a little bit of a bendy throw into space. A bit of a risky throw, especially in this kind of wind. Do you think this is just a product of the team being tired, or do you think this is actual conscious strategy on their part to catch the defender not looking at the disc?
Yeah, I think if you have good chemistry with your teammates back there at the handler position, that can be a very effective way to get resets without much trouble. Because if you're trying to jam it in and a little around and you're trying to run back and forth, that can often be the times where you have a miscommunication. If you're just putting it out into space, as long as you can keep the throw under control, it's usually an easy reset.
We should mention some of the highlights from earlier in this tournament. We saw Whitman, the qualifier champion to this tournament, only a week or two before, ends up beating the previously undefeated Wisconsin Hodags 13-10 in their second round matchup. A huge upset in this tournament, possibly shaking up the balance of the bid allocation for nationals.
It's entirely possible. I mean, it's an amazing game because Whitman is the only team in this tournament that's not in the top 25, and Wisconsin is the consensus number one. I mean, you talk about an upset, that's as big as it gets. Whitman played spectacular in that game. Wisconsin really struggled. Surprisingly, they had a lot of miscommunications and sort of just throwaways and uncharacteristic errors. But Whitman, to their credit, played great and made the big plays when they needed to. Saw a great play from Jacob Jannon, their captain, of course, who also played on Next Gen with Will Driscoll and Tommy Lamar of these two teams. But, you know, you think, could that knock Wisconsin down far enough to pick up another bid for the Northwest? It's entirely possible. We got a lot of weekend left.
And the punditry was speculating before this tournament that the Northwest region was really, you know, maybe only getting 1 or 2 bids this year. Oregon looking as the only consensus favorite. Washington having some struggles in the early going. Now with the way Whitman is looking at this tournament, this could really shake things up quite a bit.
Yeah, and they looked good against Central Florida in their first round game as well. They lost 13-11 there, but were competitive throughout, and you know, UCF's a good team. At this level, it's all about matchups, and I think Whitman did a good job of putting pressure on Wisconsin by forcing into their side stack and not letting them get, you know, the easy looks that they've gotten this entire season so far. And it's going to be interesting to see if Whitman can keep that level up. Sometimes there can be a little bit of a dip after a big win like that. It's hard to get up for the next game because you're sort of a little self-satisfied.
That's right, and if you beat the top seed, you're going to have to beat the lower seeds in order to have it really matter. Well, exciting time so far at the 2013 Stanford Invite. We'll be back in a moment with the second half. And welcome back to the second half of Texas versus UNC Wilmington here in the third round of pool play at the 2013 Stanford Invite. Poll goes up to Wilmington, down 5-7 in this game. Disc over to Chris Hedham. Hedham back to Luke Hancock in the center of the field. Gives it up to True Nottingham. Back to Chris Hedham. Up to Tommy Lamar for the beautiful score out of half. Smooth offense for Wilmington, 7-6 Texas.
You know, that's exactly what you need. When you go down into half like that after a frustrating point, and you know you have a chance to score, and you turn it over, and then the other team gets into the half up 2, and you come out and you have your best O-line point of the game. That's the best we've seen their offense play. And that really can start things off on the right foot for the second half and get the defense back out on the field.
Just as they drew it up, very simple score, 5 passes or so, 7-6, and Wilmington's going to look to break the tie on this point.
Yeah, that power position huck, it's a very powerful thing. You get the strike cut, and the deep cutter sees that, and they set their cut up, and it's an easy score a lot of the time.
Yeah, we saw some tempers flaring towards the end of the half. Hopefully halftime gave both teams a chance to calm down a little bit, although that energy seemed to do Texas pretty well, waking up and getting that break into half. But both teams seem to be pretty low-key at this point, trying not to get too into it. Wilmington with the pole. Andrew Klotz centering it to Will Driscoll. Wilmington's playing a bit of a zone here. 2-man wall in front. Third member of the cup floating a bit back into the center, almost as a short deep.
Wilmington had some success with his defense at the Eastern qualifier, really poaching off those other 2 guys. That's the throw that can kill you.
Hammer to the center for Will Driscoll. Holsters the huck. Marshall Payne back in the center to Klotz. Scuba over the top to Payne. Throws it behind his receiver, Clark. Wilmington with the disc. Gets it to Tommy Lamar, marked by Driscoll. Holsters the huck. And the forehand to the corner. Layout grab, but a pick is called. Looks like that's coming back.
You know, for the first time here, we see Tommy Lamar out on defense. They want this point. For the most part, Coach Greg Vassar likes to keep his lines pretty separate.
And the same throw goes up again. Number 36 for the score. Wilmington gets it within 1, 6-7.
And that's huge, coming out of half like that and getting too quick.
We should say it's 7-7 now.
UNC Wilmington tying it up there. And now they've got a downwind point. Try to get the up and down break here and take the lead.
Calvin Lynn with some harsh words for the Texas sidelines, telling them to spread out and support the teammates. Not liking the fact that it's been a little quiet in this game so far. Players on the field running hard, looking for some support from their sidelines.
Yeah, we're starting to hear a little bit more energy from UNC Wilmington, and Texas continuing to be pretty quiet.
Goes up, outside in.
Nice pull from Mark Evans.
And it's touched by LeMasters, rolling out the back of the end zone.
Did he touch it?
Did he touch it?
He's going to say he didn't.
Tommy Lamar claiming that he touches the disc.
No observers here to rule this one. It certainly looked close from here.
Gets a bit lucky on that one. LeMasters bringing it up to the front of the end zone.
They're showing the zone again.
They had a bit of success in this last point. As you mentioned, Charlie, changing up the strategy a bit coming out of half. Mitchell Bennett gives it back to Klotz. Klotz hammers it over to Driscoll on the far side. Players spaced out nicely here.
Sometimes you just want to change it up on a team. It doesn't even necessarily matter if you're having success one way or the other. And there it is again.
Driscoll can't reel it in. Wilmington looking great here in the early going of the second half.
You know, they've historically been a second half team.
Oh, and a beautiful hand block from Clark, but it's coming back.
They've been a second half team, and they've shown that all season. They often get broken on their first O-line point. And it looks like they're going to be, having a tough, struggling game. And in the second half, they come out and they will sometimes just rattle off 7 straight to finish the game. It was interesting to see what happens here and if Texas is going to respond to what looks like it might be a 3-point run.
Disc tapped in. Break goes up to the end zone, leading Tommy Lamar a little too far. Trying to get the layout grab, but can't quite get there. Texas gets the disc.
And Nick Jackson looked a little frustrated there. Like there was maybe some kind of miscommunication downfield when he threw that throw, but I don't know that anybody was anywhere near that.
Watch out!
Scuba over the top. Seeing a zone again here from Wilmington. Preventing the easy side-to-side throws, cutting off that swing. Texas stuck in the corner, hammers it back to the center to Clark. Clark can't find anything through, looking to dump it back to his handler. Gets to Mitchell Bennett. Bennett moving it to Driscoll. Green G-Mark. Tommy Lamar calling fire. Looks like it's going to be transitioning into man pretty soon here. It looks like we've transitioned. Beautiful layout. Big can't quite get to Bennett. Bennett swings it back into the center of the field, floating. And number 14, Mark Evans, slides into the feet of number 34, takes him out. Texas just outside of the end zone here. LeMasters swinging it over to Clark. Clark to Driscoll.
Again, a nice throw to space there from Driscoll.
Texas doing a really good job isolating receivers on the break side for those IO breaks. Excellent dump defense.
They seem to take it slow. They really look for one cutter at a time to make a move. Of course, in a vertical stack, you don't have as much opportunity for multiple cuts, but
Throw goes up, curls into the ground too far, and both thrower and receiver on the ground after that one. Looks like the Masters may have a bit of a cramp here, getting some help from his teammates.
it's so surprising to have a cramp only 2 games into the weekend.
It's interesting you mentioned the dump setup. It almost looks like Texas is running a dump drill in practice where they really, nobody moves except the thrower and the dump. And they're really looking very deliberate into trying to hit their first option. If they don't hit that, they go to their second option every single time. Very methodical on Texas's part.
Yeah, it seems to serve them well. In the first half, they had some trouble because they couldn't seem to catch the disc. But they weren't really having a lot of problems with throwaways. Texas looking to retake the lead here, knotted at 7s.
Receiver calls a foul. No contest, coming back to 0. Colby Jansen with the disc. Texas running a very tight lineup here on offense. We've pretty much been calling the same names. Really, it's a very small team actually. The team's only about 20 or so players on the team. Back to the center of the field to Jansen. Jansen looking for the break. Can't get there. Tommy Lamar calls trap.
And that short roster made their wins at warm-up that much more impressive. They were really able to, and especially considering that Will Driscoll plays both ways, it's impressive that they're able to get wins with.
Miscommunication on the dump. Robert Good getting in there for the layout D.
Mark Evans at the disc here.
Gets back to Mark Evans. Mark Evans with the inside break to Lamar. Lamar with the forehand to space. Looking for Robert Good in the end zone. He's going to get it. Yes, easily claps it in for the score. 8-7 Wilmington. That's 3 points out of half.
And that can really you can really hurt your opponent with that 3-0 run out of halftime. And it looks like Calvin Lynn might have to take a timeout here. That's got to be frustrating for the Texas team. And that's a pretty throw from Tommy Lamar. You can really see why he's been able to stand out on this team. A pretty deep team this year, as they're really top player without question.
Tommy Lamar, player on Next Gen, didn't really get to showcase his throws a lot on that team, playing mostly as a possession receiver. A lot of top handlers on that team. He was a bit lost in the shuffle on that team, but here he's really showcasing his throws. Looks like he's made a lot of improvement in the offseason.
Absolutely, and I think one of the things is that playing with a team like that, he's a very good thrower, but compared to some of the guys on that team, he just is much more effective with his height as a receiver. But on this team and in the college game in general, when you're a great player like he is, you're going to be asked to do more. You're going to be asked to touch the disc a lot, and you want, one of the things that I think is going to be interesting is as we start to bring more statistics into the game of Ultimate, seeing who's touching the disc the most may be one of the most telling things about a team. those deep cutters who catch a lot of scores often aren't the guys who are really driving the team's success.
Let's go, Black! Come on, Black!
Will Driscoll with the disc. Note that by Xavier Maxtat. Disc to Mitchell Bennett, marked by Charlie Leon.
Go big! Davies under!
Texas with the disc on the sideline. Looking for Mitchell Bennett, can't get it to him. And layout catch block by number 80, Xavier Maxtat. Beautiful defense on the dump. Wilmington really tightening down on the dumps here.
They've ratcheted it down. This is what they did against Ohio in the finals of the Eastern's qualifier last weekend. And just didn't let Ohio's best players get going. And it seems to be that's the story of this half so far.
Mark Evans with the disc. With a little cheeky break over to Xavier Maxtat. Some beautiful handler throws here for these players. Some air bounces, some beautiful play. We should mention again that Wilmington is undefeated on the season. Nice layout. Gets it up to Xavier Maxtat. On the goal line. Breaks it to Mark Evans, and that is 4 points in a row, ladies and gentlemen. 9-7 Wilmington, running away with it.
And you see, there it is. You know, these top guys on their D-line, Mark Evans and Xavier Maxtat, they touch the disc 85% of the time on that possession, and Maxtat with a D. A really nice catch block. And they are able to step up in these big games, go up against the best players on the opposite team, and generate turnovers, and once they get the disc, they're very explosive on offense. They could easily be O-line players on this team. And Texas takes a timeout. A little frustrated here.
Texas with their third timeout of the game. Calvin Lynn visibly frustrated on the sidelines. His players not really getting too involved, not making, not alerting the players on the field where the receivers are going. Lynn can't really like this performance. Mitchell Bennett currently trying to pump the team up and stop the bleeding here a little bit. That's a 4-point run out of half. Wilmington looking very impressive here.
Absolutely, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how Texas responds here. They really need to stop the bleeding. You know, in a game to 13, you don't want to get too far behind because there's just no time to come back. The wind has died down a little bit, which I think, unfortunately for Texas, doesn't help them out much. They seem to excel in the wind, and the windy conditions at warm-up, they won all of their games, basically. When it was less windy, they lost. They had 2 losses to Wisconsin. Certainly not anything to be ashamed of to lose to Wisconsin. But the less windy conditions seem to have really favored UNC Wilmington so far in this game.
Teams coming out of the timeout, looking to get set. Texas using their third and final timeout. Wilmington still has 2 left, should they choose to use them. And looks like we have Mark Evans here set to pull for Wilmington. Looking very comfortable with the disc so far.
Well, they opened up their line a little bit. Got some new players out there on the D-line.
Outside in pull. Land centers to LeMasters. LeMasters looking for Mitchell Bennett on the break side. Gets it to him. Ooh, Mark Evans nearly gets that D again. Very tight on all of the receivers so far. Wilmington has really clamped down. Called downfield, Clark with the disc.
White, bring the stack in.
Disc tapped in. Clark looking for his dump. Throws it over the defender's head. The Masters gets it up to Driscoll. Driscoll on the sideline. Nice little fake over the top. Back to his handler, Danny Broberg, over to LeMasters. LeMasters over to Bennett.
Finally hit a downfield cutter there.
They seem to be dumping the disc an awful lot. Cutter's having a hard time getting open.
Some credit goes to UNC Wilmington for that, but also Texas's cutters just aren't moving that much.
Yeah, it's
really lacked aggression during this game.
For better or worse, what you can say about Texas is they're very methodical.
Yes.
Very technically sound, but when the defense is tight, you have to make a lot of dump passes. Your percentage is going to go down accordingly.
Well, it becomes a numbers game at that point. You figure each of these throws is 97% chance of being completed. Throw enough throws, you're going to turn it over.
So, ironically, the high percentage, what seems like a high percentage play on each individual throw may end up being a low percentage strategy overall.
No cutters. Look at the action. Nothing. No one's moving downfield. Now they put it up. They finally take a chance.
In double coverage, Xavier Maxted gets the disc. Just as you said, very stagnant. Wilmington looking to make it 5 in a row here. Maxted with the inside break up to Charlie Leon. Now it gets to Mark Evans. Evans back to Maxted. Maxted gets fouled by Driscoll on the mark, coming back in on 0.
I'm not sure that anybody except those three right there, the handler said, have touched the disc on the last 2 or 3 points of the UNC Wilmington D-line, but they're getting it done.
And the rarely used players that are on the line are just content to stay downfield and not really touch the disc too much. The veterans seem to be moving it very well here. Mark Evans breaks it to Maxted again. Maxted with a beautiful flat forehand, but sails a bit long.
Needed a little bit more float on that one.
Looked very crisp, but doesn't hit its intended target.
I like that aggression, though. I think they're right. It's kind of like when you play poker. When you play poker, you're supposed to play the opposite style of your opponent. So if your opponent is playing really tight, you should be a little bit more loose with your betting, and vice versa. And right now, UNC Wilmington is taking that more aggressive stance, and they're beating Texas with it.
Especially in the college game where teams turn it over far more regularly in the club game. If you play an aggressive game, chances are, if your defense is good enough, you're going to get that disc back. Right now, it's a little zone here from the Wilmington. Texas breaking it up the field with their handlers, playing a little two-man game here. This goes up to the sideline and floats into Danny Broberg, stopping the bleeding.
That's a beautiful throw. I mean, he had really one place to put that throw where he did. Had it been a little bit shorter, it would have easily been D. And had it floated out any further, it would have been a turnover and throw in. That's an aggressive throw from the young man.
And for all Wilmington's dominance here lately, this is only a 1-point game. It's 9-8 Wilmington.
We've got a lot of game to go here. I think we're going to see a great one. And it's also important, Texas got the little upwind here. They're going to have a better chance of getting this game tied up than UNC Wilmington is probably to score it. Wind's picked up a little bit.
We might be getting close to the capped time here. Again, game sort of 13, capped at 15.
We're an hour and 10 minutes into this round. I'm sorry, we're an hour and 30 minutes into this round. I believe the cap should be going on any time now if it hasn't already. The next game is set to start in just 10 minutes.
And we're not sure if there is a horn that's going to signal soft cap. If there is, they'll finish the point and play to score 2 higher than the highest point. And at that point, the game will be finished. Trey Nottingham gets it over to Nick Jackson. Jackson up to Lamar. Lamar holsters the huck. Gets it to Robert Good. Wilmington working it up the sideline here. Swings it over to Luke Hancock. Luke Hancock looking for Tommy Lamar. Gets it to him with Driscoll on the mark. This is a great next-gen matchup. Puck goes up from Lamar to Robert Good. And Good reels it in over a bidding defender. Wilmington 10, Texas 8.
Trailing edge catch there. You know, I think UNC Wilmington just showed Texas how to run a vertical stack on that point. And you saw so much more movement in the middle of the stack, and not just guys waiting for somebody else to do something. They're going out and trying to get the disc into their hands, and that's making all the difference in this game. Wilmington has that 2-point lead. Not much time left for Texas to get back in this game.
Let's go over.
Soft cap should be on any minute here. Texas is going to need to reel off a few points here. This game's going to be over.
Coach Greg Vassar of UNCW must have made some good adjustments at halftime. I think particularly the defensive adjustment to do a little bit of early zone and then transitioning into man has confused Texas a little bit. And Texas just has yet to respond. You see Wilmington sort of running the clock here.
Possibly a little strategic time management. Mark Evans with the outside in ball. Bounces to LeMasters. LeMasters up to Driscoll. And Wilmington comes back with their zone defense. This could also be a bit of a time management as well. A 2-man game here. Bennett gets it on the sideline. Bennett was so dominant in the first half, hasn't made much noise here thus far in the second.
Notice UNC Wilmington has been very willing to let Texas come over to this sideline. They've given them open receivers over here, both in the man and the zone, and there's a turnover throw to Mitchell Bennett.
Mark Evans immediately picks it up, and Mitchell Bennett looks like he's got a bit of a shoulder stinger. Coming out of the game, it's going to go back to Mark Evans. Wilmington looking to punch it in for 11-8. Unfortunate little blade over the top. The receiver was wide open, couldn't quite get it to him. Forehand back to the same receiver, and Will Driscoll just eats it up.
You don't really want to throw towards him.
Egg behind you, Egg! Egg!
Masters breaks in the middle of the field. Jansen over to Payne. Payne back to LeMasters. Bit of confusion, Texas's part. Breaks in the middle over Jansen. Being very patient here.
Considering how much time they have left, they don't have the time to be this patient. They need to take some shots. They got to get back in this game.
Not a lot of urgency on the part of Texas. Masters needing to make something happen. Jansen back to the Masters. Blade to Driscoll. Risky throw. Oh, and a hand block. Tommy Lamar looks like he stepped on Will Driscoll's foot there. Screaming in pain, but not taking injury timeout. He's not going to leave the game, especially at this point, Will Driscoll being captain of this team.
He's been in the entire game.
And You know, Charlie, these players played on Next Gen together. You think there's a little bit of some mind games going on? These players know each other pretty well.
Oh, there's no question. You know, I'm sure they're good friends, but they also know how each other like to play. They're going to use that to their advantage in this matchup.
To Driscoll.
Nice throw there from Driscoll.
Driscoll, beautiful to Javon Liu. That's a new name. Masters hammers it over to Driscoll. Driscoll with a hammer, but that's not going to get it done.
He's had a lot of turnovers with that hammer.
Way to go!
And that wasn't even close.
And you can see that Driscoll is clearly an elite player, but his major talents lie in being a receiver and getting up in the air and being an athletic presence. His throws are great, but so far they're not really getting it done.
Right, it's exactly what we were talking about earlier. It's just not a natural handler. And this Texas team, maybe not as deep at the handler position as they'd like. I mean, some of their top handlers are on the sideline right now. Oh, if you lay out for that, you might get it.
Robert Good gets it past a bidding Clark. Clark,
another cramp.
Cramping up again. It's really not very warm. It's actually kind of chilly here in the field. It's kind of surprising we see so many players cramping.
It could be a dehydration issue, Flying really can dehydrate you, and if they haven't been drinking enough water over the last 24 hours, that could be the problem.
Max that to Evans, over to Corey Morris, to Tommy Lamar. Pick call on the field. Lamar looking to punch it in here.
This would pretty much seal the game.
At 11-8, the game would virtually be over. It looks for a cheeky little high release, gets away with it. Gets hand blocked, but Mark Evans reels it in for the score. Wilmington
cleaning up the
11-8.
garbage.
I tell you, when it's working, it's working. Not very pretty.
I think that's it. A cap must have come on.
And this game is over.
It wouldn't have mattered. Even if the cap hadn't been on at this point, it was already over if Texas didn't score this one. An impressive second half of UNC Wilmington. We've seen it all season. They make the adjustments they need to at halftime, come out in the second half, tighten up the defense, and really grind teams down. And, with wins today against Arizona and Texas, probably the two best teams in the West coming into this weekend, ranked at Texas at number 3 and Arizona at number 5. UNC Wilmington, very impressive so far.
Yeah, Texas coming into this matchup at 4th in the country and Wilmington 13. Definitely going to see some movement from UNC Wilmington if they keep up their performance this weekend. Well, we've just seen a scintillating performance between Texas and Wilmington. Wilmington wins 11-8 here in the third round of pool play on day 1 of the 2013 Stanford Invite. I'm Jeremy Ziskind alongside Charlie Eisenhood. Thank you for tuning in.